All right, everybody, I am back with a brand new DC update. And I really wanted to get this update to you yesterday because there was an interview with James Gunn, and boy, was it entertaining to say the least. And James Gunn was caught in yet another flat-out lie. And we're going to look at that here today. And apparently there was also a screening of Superman in L.A., and we're going to be talking about that as well. There were a couple of posts I did on Twitter this weekend and the other day that just set the Twitter crazy gun people on fire, and it was like hitting a hornet's nest. And it was actually pretty funny to watch. It was an entertaining weekend, to say the least. So if you aren't following me over on Twitter, you probably want to go over there and check it out. That's where all the crazy people come out, and it's pretty funny to watch, actually. So let's take a look at the grabs I've had since my last update. There's plenty to go over. So the first photo I have for you here is in regards to Peacemaker Season 2. And James Gunn himself confirmed that Peacemaker Season 2 officially wrapped for Danielle Brooks, Freddie Storma, Robert Patrick, Frank Grillo, David Denman, Anissa Matlock, Taylor St. Clair, and Dorian Kingi. He said, "I can't wait for everyone to see what they bring to the table." Now, we do know that this is going to actually premiere, I believe, in August, about a month or so after Superman hits theaters. And apparently what happens at Superman is going to affect Peacemaker. And we're going to see a big lie that we caught James Gunn in regards to Peacemaker here in just a little bit. And I just have to laugh at myself. And I'm going to talk more about this interview that he had with IGN the other day. And it was very eye-opening into his attitude towards everything, which is pretty crazy to say the least. So there were a couple of rumors going around, and we don't know if these are true just yet, but it says apparently Batman's shadow will appear in Creature Commandos. Although they don't have an actor for Batman yet, they're going to tease him. Now, this does kind of make sense. We already have seen photos that Clayface is going to be in Creature Commandos, and so it would make sense for Batman to show up to some degree. But this person, like the Whip T or whatever, I don't know, whatever this person is, they've made some other claims. One of them, James Gunn, actually debunked, but we'll see coming up. All right, so it was reported via Daniel RPK that Nicholas Hoult would reportedly appear as a young Lex Luthor in DC Studios' Creature Commandos. Somebody asked James Gunn, is this true? If it is, what's the timeline like between Creature Commandos and Superman? And James Gunn confirmed that Lex Luthor is not going to be in Creature Commandos and that this Superman takes place, I believe it's weeks after Creature Commandos. I don't remember exactly what he said, but they are tied closely together, so it's Lex Luthor is going to be in Superman, but not in Creature Commandos. So this actually has been confirmed by James Gunn himself during the IGN interview yesterday, and it's one of the most ridiculous things. James Gunn will appear as himself in Creature Commandos. And it's true. James Gunn confirmed this. Now, he swears he had nothing to do with this. But he is a narcissist. It's easy to prove. And he swears up and down he had nothing to do with this. But the showrunner says it was his idea, and he wanted to put him in the credits at the beginning of the program. So there's a good chance we're going to see him for all 7 episodes at the beginning as himself in the credits, in the whatever you call it, the show opening. Again, he has this thing about openings with Peacemaker that are goofy. I'm sure the one for Creature Commandos is going to be goofy. It's kind of his signature thing. The guy's a goofy dude. And the fact that they gave him the keys to the kingdom is still mind-boggling to me. Now, this has to do with Creature Commandos. Somebody asked James Gunn, are there appearances of characters that haven't been cast yet in the DCU? And he said yes. This is something he did talk about in the IGN interview as well. He did say that there are going to be some characters that have voices that are not going to be the same as their counterpart in the DCU. Now, this also contradicts what he originally said, that if they're going to appear in cartoon form, they're also going to be the same actors that play them in real life. This, again, is one of those things that goes against what he himself has said, but this is the route that they're going with it. And so he did confirm that there are going to be some minor characters, and I believe he did say minor characters, that are going to pop into Creature Commandos that are not going to be played by the same people when they show up in the DCU. And here we go. Creature Commandos will feature certain characters that haven't been cast yet in the DCU. So again, he did confirm this. So here's the thing that James Gunn full-on lied about. James Gunn said in the past that Peacemaker Season 1 is not canon to the DCU. Now James Gunn's saying that all of Peacemaker Season 1 is canon except for the scene with the Justice League. He said, which we will kind of deal with in the next season of Peacemaker. Which we will kind of deal with? Kind of? You're going to have to deal with this at some point. For him to say it's all canon now except for this one scene is utterly ridiculous. And this shows you the selfish nature of what James Gunn is doing. James Gunn, if you haven't realized, all of the poorest performers out of the DCEU have moved their way into the DCU in grand fashion. And it's all the stuff that James Gunn either did or wanted. Like, he didn't do, Blue Beetle, but that was the worst performing DC movie. You had Peacemaker, which not a lot of people saw. Yeah, it got good reviews by critics, but that doesn't mean it's good and that it's going to be widely accepted. They have a much bigger install base on HBO Max now than when they had Peacemaker. Peacemaker was never talked about at the investor, meetings. It did not do as well as they claim it did. And so the fact that this got to move on is ridiculous. And he also has made the comment that anything that they refer back to from the Suicide Squad and Peacemaker instantly make it canon. So the true start of the DCU is not Creature Commandos. It is not Superman. The DCU has now started back with the Suicide Squad all the way up through Peacemaker, now into Creature Commandos, with the most ridiculous projects that have been created for the DCU and the DCEU. Like, this whole thing is just bizarre. It's the worst case scenario that this guy comes in and takes over, and now his stuff moved on. And in this interview, he also was laughing hysterically when he talked about how Creature Commandos was something he did before he took over as co-CEO, and he greenlit it himself and was able to do it because he's in charge, and he was laughing hysterically about it. And it's crazy the way he views this stuff. It's like a little kid was given the keys to the kingdom and a kid who shouldn't be in charge. I encourage everybody to go watch that whole interview. It's just bizarre. He's not acting like a CEO. It is literally like a little kid who was given the keys to the kingdom who shouldn't be in charge. James Gunn also in this interview talked about the casting of Hal Jordan. And it says, James Gunn on people's complaint of Kyle Chandler, Hal Jordan casting being older. Wait a second. Comic book fans had an opinion on casting? What are you talking about? And he did. He made fun of this as well during the interview. He said that the showrunners for Lanterns came up with this great story, and apparently his age serves the story. And I think the only way that it's going to serve the story is that they want to push him aside and bring in, Jon Stewart. And I don't understand why you can't have these guys be closer to the same age. DC has this issue where they just don't like Hal Jordan for some reason. It's bizarre. He talked about more projects. James Gunn hasn't chosen which DC project he'll direct next. I've got like 4 different things that I could do, and I'm going to kind of jump back and forth between those things. I'm going to see which one really speaks to me, and that's the one I'm going to do. I would rather he just sit back and be the co-CEO. I don't want this guy really in charge of anything, to be honest with you. I just don't think he's going to take things seriously. James Gunn talked a little bit more about the trailer, Superman trailer coming soon per James Gunn. It won't be long to be released. Okay, so as far as the trailer goes, there are two possible scenarios that are coming out of this. First of all, some people think the trailer will premiere with the finale of Creature Commandos, since the Creature Commandos is going to lead into Superman. So some people think that is when the trailer is going to hit. Other people think the trailer is going to hit around the Super Bowl, somewhere around that time frame, or possibly with the end of Superman and Lois. I think the most probable one would be the end of Creature Commandos for that finale, but who knows? Because there aren't going to be a lot of people that are watching Creature Commandos. I'm just being straight up honest with you guys. The subscriber base, it's not going to have a crap ton of viewers. It's just not, and they have to know that. Now, I thought this was pretty cool. Batman Notes posted this. The Penguin TV series is a Pixar movie. Artwork by Gabriel Suarez. I thought this was pretty cool. It looks just like the characters from the show. It'd be kind of neat to see a cartoon like that. But, that's pretty neat. I just thought I'd share that. All right, now, this is one of the things that set Twitter on fire yesterday. Now, I did not make a comment on this. All I posted was a face like, really? And the Den of Nerds, Josh from the Den of Nerds, came out and said, Gunn just had a Superman screening, and literally everyone in the room told him he should have just restored the Snyderverse. Now, I browsed through his comments, and he swears that this was true, but James Gunn personally attacked him on social media some time ago, and people are thinking this is just him trying to get back at James Gunn. And so I don't think that this is necessarily true. What is true is that there was a Superman screening, and there's more than one person who posted something like this. Does that make it true? No, it doesn't. And I think all of those people had to sign an NDA, and their lives were probably threatened because of how early that they are showing this. But we already know a cut of Superman does exist. James Gunn did talk about it, and they did screen it. What's going to be really interesting is when they should start screening this for the general public, not knowing what they're going into and finding out what the reception is on this. So again, I'm bringing you guys receipts here on James Gunn lying, flat out lying. As this person pointed out, as usual, he was lying. In other news, water is wet. So he said, yes, Peacemaker takes place, just James Gunn. Yes, Peacemaker takes place after Superman. Someone asked, including season 1. He said season 1 isn't canon, but no. Now all of a sudden it's canon? All but one scene? Yeah. James Gunn really just probably should get off social media entirely because he's digging himself a hole. So this is how James Gunn responded to the reports of the screening of Superman in Los Angeles. Somebody asked, at James Gunn, how was the screening? Also, will any of the stars be at CCXP for Superman for autographs and photos? Says James Gunn recently held a screening of Superman in Los Angeles. James Gunn's simple response was great, that the screening went great. He didn't answer whether anybody was going to show up for the CCXP. Some people think the trailer may show up there, but I doubt it at this stage. I don't think that's where it's going to play because that's not a big enough audience to premiere something like that. They would be better off doing it with Creature Commandos or with Superman and Lois or with the Super Bowl. But I am now convinced that it will not be done at the CCXP. DC Studios has a problem with giving. What's crazy is the whole reason they have these Comic-Cons and stuff is to get the fans excited. And for some reason, DC is reluctant to give fans something to get excited about at these Comic-Cons. And I don't know why. James Gunn did confirm during that IGN article or that interview that multiple R-rated projects are being developed at DC Studios. He said, whatever rating is worthy of the story, that's what we're going to do. This is one of the things I do agree with James Gunn. The only thing that I agree with him on is that he said every project will have a different tone depending upon the character and what that story and what that the people in charge of it want to do. And I sure hope that's true, because we cannot have everything like the Suicide Squad. We cannot have everything like Creature Commandos. And Superman is looking like it's going to be somewhat like those projects. Not as crass, but as goofy. And I'm certainly hoping Batman is taken seriously. Swamp Thing has to be taken dead seriously. And we're actually going to see a comment that he made about lanterns here in a few minutes that I think is very telling, and I think is the wrong way to go with the Lantern show. And speak of the devil, here's that exact post. James Gunn talks about Lantern script and casting thus far. He said, "The truth is, Chris, Tom King, and Damon wrote an amazing series, like an incredible series. I'm so excited for people to see this. It's very grounded, very believable, very real. The kind of things that you would never think that would be the truth about a Green Lantern television series. And very human, adult, and wonderful. And the story that they wrote fit a couple of actors who were of these ages, so that's who they cast. They were their choices. I totally back them up. I love them." Okay. I have to point this out. What was everyone's complaint about the Green Lantern series, or the Green Lantern movie with Ryan Reynolds? It wasn't about Ryan Reynolds. It wasn't about the character itself. It was the fact that we didn't get enough of Green Lantern in space, that too much of it took place on Earth. So now, what are they doing with the Lantern series? It's very grounded, very believable, very real, taking place on Earth. And I go back to what I mentioned before. I think what this is going to do is this is going to open up the door for them to not have to use the suits very often, that these two guys might be walking around in street clothes. Now, I don't know if that's going to happen or not. That's just my take on this based on what they're saying. But if any of these properties should be fantastic, should be amazing, should be out there and bizarre, and more interesting, it would be Green Lantern. It is the last show that should be grounded and believable and real. It's the one that should be out there. I mean, if you talk to the general public, I have some friends that aren't even, DC fans or comic book fans, and they think Green Lantern is the most ridiculous character because of what he could do with his ring. And I have to agree with them there, that if anything was going to be out there and a little bit weird, it would have to be Green Lantern. But instead, they're making this grounded, very believable, very real series. That seems very, very, it's just an odd choice. And again, this goes back to what I said at the beginning of my video. James Gunn says he wrote all of Creature Commandos before he signed on with DC. Luckily, I had a really great CEO at DC Studios. That was me, and I greenlit my own show. And he did laugh hysterically when he said this. They were also asked, they asked the producer there in this IGN interview on a Creature Commando Season 2 possibility. He said, "We've discussed that we'd love to do it. We think there's a lot of story to tell. Part of it is, will James ever have time to write it?" Actually, this comes from Collider. They were actually, James Gunn, and I don't know if it was the producer there, IGN. I don't know what the guy's specific role with Creature Commandos was, but they almost made it seem like after the events of Season 1 of Creature Commandos that they can't do a Creature Commando Season 2 for some reason. They kind of danced around it in that interview and didn't make it seem like that was really ever going to be a possibility, but we shall see. Again, I don't think a lot of people are going to watch this. I just don't. All right, guys, so if you have not checked out that whole IGN article, you can actually go on Twitter and watch that interview and actually put it on 2 times the speed. That's what I did, which did make the laughing a little bit ridiculous. But James Gunn does not seem like he's taking this seriously. He's either just having so much fun that he can't hold it in, and like I said, he seems like a kid who was given the keys to the kingdom who shouldn't have it. So while we're on the subject of Creature Commandos, James Gunn did confirm that there's going to be a lot of violence and there's going to be sex in Creature Commandos. How they're starting off the DCU with a cartoon with that kind of crap in it is beyond comprehension. Because you don't think, first of all, they're going to be gearing Superman towards kids. They've already talked about the promotion of the movie and how big it's going to be over the summer, and you don't think that kids are going to be drawn into that, and then they're going to want to go watch Creature Commandos, and it's definitely not for kids. Like, this whole thing, it seems pretty twisted with how they're doing this. And again, James Gunn is just over the moon that he gets to do whatever he wants. All right, guys, what do you think about James Gunn? If you saw this interview, what did you think of it? I do appreciate all the support. If you like the video, please hit the like button, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and you will be notified as I have new videos go up. We will see you guys on the next video.